Hello and welcome to the channel. If you do not know who I am, I go by Strange Online, and today we're going to be creating some sketches for my two OCs, Milo and Queen Combris. If you do not know these characters, I've made videos designing both of them, and I highly suggest going over to those videos to get more context for the actual characters themselves. You don't necessarily need to do that, but it is a suggestion just because I think they're cool, and I think that I was pretty proud of making those videos. So if you do want to, I'll link them in the description below. Other than that, I also wanted to mention, yes, my sketchbook cover is brand new. In case you've seen that it has changed, it's because I completely destroyed the one that I had before. It's a long story, but basically it involves me trying to clean the cover and the paint just going everywhere. Before I hop into today's topic as well, I want to make this a series on my channel where I basically just kind of talk about random topics while I sketch in the background. It is definitely one of the easier series to make, but I still think that it has its value on my channel, so if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like. Now let's talk about art block. Now I know there is some controversy when it comes to art block. Some people think it exists, some people don't think it exists. I think it does personally. I do think that there is an overexertion that comes with doing anything, and art block is kind of the overexertion of creating. I don't know when this art block kind of started, but you'll see a lot throughout the video where I just kind of mess up a lot of the drawings that I'm making, and it's not necessarily because, you know, I don't know how to draw. It's more so like I am just struggling. I've been struggling a lot with art block throughout my life. A lot of it was during my time in like high school. I just wasn't drawing because I quite literally was so tired of doing so. Not necessarily because I didn't want to, but more so I was expecting a certain amount of quality with how I was drawing, and if I didn't match that quality, my motivation would slowly deplete itself until I was basically doing no drawing at all. The biggest reason why I wanted to discuss this as well is because I know a lot of other artists have struggled with this, and I wanted to kind of give my advice on how to work through art block. I know how hard it can be. As example, like there was this one time where I had art block so bad, and this is on record. The worst art block that I've ever had stopped me from drawing for about 2 years. It wasn't necessarily art block per se, it was just a loss of motivation and passion altogether. I wasn't drawing consistently for 2 years. It was mainly because I was also going through a lot of things and art was just not my priority at the moment, so I just ended up kind of leaving it behind. And because of that, even though I've been doing art for a very long time, I actually am not that skilled or advanced as I would have been if I had continued consistently practicing art. A lot of time I feel bad for this era in my life because it kind of stunted my skill for a very long time, and I just ended up falling behind or feeling like I'm falling behind from the skill level that I felt I should have been. Even now, I would say that if I had stuck to consistently kind of drawing throughout my life and not going through these blocks where I'm just kind of doing nothing for a month or a year, it just would have been much more productive for my skill level. For example, a lot of people get art block from just feeling bad about the way their art looks, comparing themselves to other artists, and just repeatedly practicing without having some sort of moment of doing something they actually want to draw, and they just kind of study art rather than just enjoy it for what it is. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't study art. I'm not saying that you shouldn't want to better yourself in this skill that you have, but it is really important to take breaks, much with everything else, and too much of one thing is quite dangerous for your happiness. That's why a lot of artists end up distancing themselves from art, because they feel as though if they continue doing it, it will kind of just blow up in their face. And that's fair to think because it often does feel like that. So here's what I personally do to get over those mounds of art block. The first thing that I do is walk away. Now, this might seem counterproductive to art block. You know, the last thing you want to do is walk away from what you're creating. But walking away is sort of gaining control in a situation that you feel helpless in. Some people like to push through, some people just have to walk away. It is really a two-sided coin, and a lot of people are either on one side or the other. But all of this is experimental. You really don't know how you motivate yourself without really practicing it. I would suggest that if you feel overwhelmed, walk away. If you feel like you can get over it, then keep going. Draw even though it's ugly. Draw even though you don't know exactly what you're creating. The reason I like to personally walk away is because a lot of the time our eyes adjust to our artworks very differently after a certain amount of time. So you might be looking looking at something and be like, oh my god, this is so ugly, and then come back about an hour or two later and be like, it's actually not that bad. Or the opposite effect where you're like, this is great, I'm gonna go take a break and, come back, and then you're like, wow, this is god awful. I've seen some experiences where people create one thing at night and then in the morning they wake up and they're like, this is the worst creation I've ever made. Walking away not only enables you to see your artwork different, but it also enables you to having a proper break. Like anything, you wouldn't exercise for 5 hours straight without a break in between, because you would actually kind of probably die from overexertion. You need to give your hands a break, you need to give your eyes a break, you need to give your brain a break. Believe it or not, you're using a lot of brain power to actually create, to come up with images on your head and then put it on the paper, whether they look exactly like how they look in your head or not. That's why it's important to take care of yourself, because you don't want to be working on damaged equipment. You don't want your hands to be stiff, you don't want your eyes to be strained, you don't want your brain to just basically implode on itself. So treat all these facilities as you would treat any other facilities that you use in other practices. When I take breaks, I usually like to go and watch YouTube or watch a movie or watch a show and just put on an episode or two so that I can just mentally turn off my brain. And usually I like to put on stuff maybe to motivate me to create something different. This kind of slides into the next step, and that is to create different things. You want to create different things because you don't want to stay stuck in a single loop. Every artist has a different thing they like to draw, whether it's a different perspective, an art style, or maybe specific characters. It's great to have something that you can fall back on, that you know how to draw and that you feel comfortable in. But this also can lead you to kind of hit a wall in a lot of ways. When you're constantly drawing the same thing over and over again, just with a slight difference in between each time you draw them, you're really just limiting your brain to new concepts. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to draw something that you don't want to draw. This just means that you need to come at it from a new perspective. I'll give an example of what I mean. Let's say I'm currently super hyper fixated on a show, right? And I love drawing characters from said show, but I've drawn fan art after fan art after fan art, and I'm starting to get art block. A lot of this can be because of that repetition. I'm not necessarily stretching my brain out to create new ideas or come up with new concepts because I'm drawing the same characters, probably in the same style, over and over again. But this doesn't necessarily mean I have to stop drawing fan art as a whole. I don't like the concept that because an artist draws a certain way or draws something specifically, they can't evolve and become better and avoid art block. It's all about coming at it from a different angle and a different perspective. What I would do in this situation, if there's something that you like drawing your OCs, you like drawing specific fan art from a show or movie, I would say that if you like doing those things so much and you don't want to stop, but you are hitting that roadblock, try changing it up through different styles, AUs, maybe even perspectives that you put your characters in. I'll use a more specific example. Let's say I'm drawing a lot of Amazing Digital Circus fan art, and that might just be a snitch on myself. I don't know, man. And halfway through this process, I start getting art block. I start having some issues where I think that the reason why I'm getting this art block is because I'm repeatedly making fan art of this one show. But I love this show so much, and I just want to draw more, and I just want to keep going, but I just can't. At this point, I would shift directions. Instead of trying to continuously bash my head metaphorically against the wall of art block, I would find a compromise between what I want and what I need. What I want is to continue drawing fan art. What I need is to draw something different. So the compromise would be something like changing up the art style, changing up what I'm drawing in general, maybe trying out an AU instead where the character designs are different. Maybe instead of drawing them as cartoon characters, maybe I draw them as a realistic portrait of themselves or something different. And from there, if it still does not work out, I would completely shift gears and try to draw something else instead. Again, you could also fall back on the prior step where you just walk away and then come back to it later on. But if you really do want to continue, you have to shift gears. Again, this is different for everyone. So what works for me might not work for you. It's all about experimenting and finding what your solution is. This leads to my final piece of advice for you guys, and that is to set a goal and know where you're aiming. What are you trying to get out of drawing? What is your major accomplishment that you want to complete? I see a lot of people struggle with trying to figure out what to draw, and I also struggle with this a lot of the time. A lot of time during art block, something that keeps you stuck within art block is just straight up not knowing what you should draw. After all the struggle you've gone through and trying to get through art block, you really don't want to take a misstep and go back into it just to fall on your face. This ultimately makes it harder to return to art and harder to envision yourself going back into it with a clear mind. That's why it's important to know what you want. And this advice isn't just for art. This should be something that you really think about for yourself over anything. What is your goal in art? Why do you want to pursue it? Is it a hobby for you or is it a career interest? Who or what is your inspiration? What are you aiming for long term? These are all questions that you don't need to have the answers to, but is very important to think about. Having a sense of direction gives you a huge advantage over a lot of things in your art. Now, I consider myself a pretty organized person and I like to plan out a lot of what I do, but I understand that's not how everyone works and some people truly just go with the flow. But I'm going to be completely sincere when I say what I say next. And again, this is my personal take on it, and this is more of a personal take on life. You don't need to have all the answers of what you want to do with your life or what you want to do with your art, but you should always be aiming to improve. And part of improvement is planning. Planning for the next step and being honest in why you're doing things in your life, whether that be art or any other hobby, choice, or career that you're in. The sense of honesty will give you a sense of direction, and that sense of direction will give you a lot of aid in whatever you choose to do. I can't exactly sugarcoat it. Art block sucks, and so does making choices in general when you're just confused on what you should be doing. It can be really disheartening to try and just fail. But the great thing about failing an everyday task is that you could always try it again. Unless you're gambling, then you definitely probably should not try again. All jokes aside though, trying and failing is better than not trying at all. And I know that's just such a cliche thing to say and just not at all original. Like, this advice is probably something you've heard before, but it is something that is worth thinking about when you are continuously failing. Art block at the end of the day is a mental game, and the best way to play said game is to be mentally strong and mentally determined. You don't need to have everything figured out to be determined to do well. Resilience in the face of failure is a lot of what determination is built on. So I hope the next time that you feel particularly hopeless about any type of art block or creative block or even block in your life that you're having, you can look back at these steps and take a breath and know that you're not alone in this struggle, as well as know that there is a way out. Now that I'm kind of done giving you guys that motivational speech, sorry if it got a bit metaphorical towards the end, but I really do think that this topic is a little more important than people lead it on to be. As someone who's struggled with motivation and just drawing in general when things get tough, I like to use my personal experience and pass on the lessons that I've learned so that people can hopefully avoid going through all the troublesome stuff. Besides that though, I did want to talk about the piece that I'm working on. So like I was saying, I have been going through a bit of art block myself. I may give my advice on it, but I still struggle at the end of the day. Knowing what you have to do doesn't always translate to doing it, and this is definitely one of those examples. I think particularly with this sketch, for some reason I was just having a really hard time with proportions. As you can see, Milo's hands are a bit bigger than I wanted them to be. He is a child. I don't know why, but I always proportion hands really big for some reason, and I didn't fix it entirely in this sketch because I was just kind of over it. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna leave it like that and it's okay. I don't like to mull over too much of my mistakes, especially if it's just a sketch and I know it's just not gonna be like any final piece. If it was a final piece, I would try to fix it, but it's just a sketch and I didn't really put too much thought into it. Another thing is that Milo is the wrong height. Let's not talk about that fact that he's almost hitting Queen Combris' height, and he's like 12. There is another thing I also wanted to add about this drawing, and that's the fact that I added something to Milo's character. Now, this was already planned, but I did not add it in the previous episode where I designed Milo's character because I wanted it to be a little bit of a surprise and save it for a later episode. This is that later episode. So, Milo is actually secretly a mage. Well, to be more specific, he's actually a cleric. Milo can perform small spells, and this is later revealed to Queen Combris. I won't go too into depth of how and why it gets revealed, but I did want to mention it just as a little sweet treat, a little bit of lore. Let me know if you guys are interested in knowing more about this special trait that Milo has, you know, just a part of the plot. If you're curious about the spell that Milo's using in this sketch, in Milo's world, there is kind of a set of rules that each spell has to take. You have to do things very specifically for them to work. You can't just wave your hand and magic comes out. Milo here is performing a wind casting spell, which is basically what it says. It casts a small gust of wind for whatever reason that Milo might need to use it. For this spell, the rule is that he has to blow between his hands. Queen Combris does have a little bit of concern because she's seen the overexertion of magical spells be used, and she's a little worried that Milo might overdo it. Finally, I want to thank everyone who has made it this far into the video and has watched all the way through. I really appreciate the support I've been getting on my videos, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch it. Thank you again, and I hope you guys have an excellent day. If you're going through art block, you got this. If you like this video, consider liking and following for more. This is Strange, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!